Good afternoon, class. It's me again, Professor Wetty and Ready. So please put away your fleshlights and take out your notebooks because it's time for another lesson. Today's topic is monosodium glutamate, the worst thing human beings have ever created, 10 times worse than the invention of the atomic bomb. Was the Manhattan Project actually a government cover-up to hide the truth from the people? That the government was cooking up monosodium glutamate in those laboratories? So let's just get right into this shit. MSG, I'm sure you've heard of it, monosodium glutamate. It's become the boogeyman of the food industry. If you've ever looked at a food package, even glanced at it, there's a good chance you've seen MSG free on it. For some reason, the general population believes that you need to stay far, far away from MSG. It's the bully on the food playground that's gonna kick sand in your ice cream cone. It's gonna give you headaches, heartburn, cancer. It's gonna throw you in prison. It's gonna fuck you up for the long term if you eat even one thing with even the littlest trace amount of MSG in it. So food companies have come to understand that people will not buy products with MSG in it because of this fear of it. So what they do is they say, we've taken the MSG out. This is an MSG-free product. But now I'm going to throw this cold water on you and hit that tip of your penis with this lightning bolt of facts. The MSG is still in those products. They just hide it in other ingredients. So on the package, you'll see MSG free on it. But if you turn it over and look at the ingredients and see tomato powder or yeast extract, that's MSG. They're hiding MSG in those ingredients, and that's totally legal, that's totally by the books. Now, if you've already thrown up because you've ingested MSG and now you're panicking, don't, because the fear of MSG is pretty unfounded, and I want to talk about it. So let's start with the basics. Monosodium glutamate was created in 1908. Why did it make its way into food? It wasn't an accident. It's not just because they wanted to make it unhealthy or something like that. A lot of people seem to believe that a lot of the ingredients in modern food are useless and they serve no purpose other than making them unhealthy. But that's bullshit. Everything in there has a purpose. It's not like they're just mindlessly tossing shit in there for no reason. Like, oh, hey, Gary, why don't you take that handful of mulch and just toss it into the Lay's formula? Righto, Frank, would you like this Windex bottle in there as well? Why not? Everything in the modern food has a purpose. Monosodium glutamate has a purpose. Its purpose is to enhance flavor, mainly umami, which is one of the 5 basic tastes. Umami is savory. So now you know why it's used, but what is MSG? Well, its name implies it's the product of sodium and glutamate. What is glutamate? Glutamate's a non-essential amino acid, and that's found in fucking everything. You can't go outside without basically breathing glutamate. It's in all your foods, 100% in all of them. MSG is made from the fermentation of starches, and speaking chemically, there's no difference between the glutamate in MSG and the glutamate in just every other food. Only difference being MSG is a little bit easier for your body to access. Now let's get to why everyone seems to think MSG is the worst thing in the world for your body and that you're better off just popping cyanide capsules as opposed to having any amount of MSG in your body. It all stems from the fact that glutamate is an excitatory neurotransmitter, meaning it excites nerve cells, and that MSG leads to an excessive amount of glutamate in the brain, which can cause damage. Thus, it was given the name an excitotoxin. Then in 1969, there was a study conducted to show that MSG was harmful by injecting MSG into newborn mice, and it showed neurological effects that were harmful, as you would expect from fucking injecting MSG like a heroin addict. In 1996, there was a book called Excitotoxins: The Taste That Kills, published by Dr. Russell Blaylock, and in this book he basically just says that an excessive amount of glutamate can destroy nerve cells, and not just in your brain, just in general. And that's a true statement, yeah. But that's kind of fucking obvious, because if you megadose on anything, it can cause harmful effects. You can fucking die from drinking too much water, so obviously megadosing on something is going to cause some harmful effects. However, dietary MSG, the MSG that you ingest through eating shit with MSG in it, has little to no effect on the human brain because it can't cross the blood barrier in large amounts. So then why, when you tell someone MSG isn't bad, that they damn near slap you in the face because they have had a personal experience with MSG where their entire family was eradicated due to that MSG menace? Well, actually, that's kind of true. It didn't kill your family or anything. It didn't do anything super harmful, but it is true you can have a sensitivity to MSG. There's studies that have confirmed that some people just have an inclination to have some negative effects to it. Nothing too severe, just a bit of nausea and headaches and some flushing of the face, but enough to where you'd be like, alright MSG, fuck you. Another thing that's often associated with MSG is obesity. If you even touch MSG, you're gonna gain 5 pounds immediately. And really, there's just no decisive conclusion on this one, because some studies say that it fills you up faster, thus you're not going to eat as much. Others say the exact opposite, so it's really split. However, if you want my opinion on it based on the research I've read, I think it does increase the likelihood of gaining weight because the foods with MSG are typically the junky foods that you're going to have a hard time putting down. Thus you're going to eat more of, thus you're going to gain weight. However, one thing's for sure, MSG itself doesn't put pounds on your body. It just makes things taste better. Now just to wrap it all up, MSG is not fucking bad for you. The fear of MSG is completely irrational and based on pretty much nothing in my opinion. For some reason it's just become the accepted norm in our society where if you don't recognize what's on the ingredients label that it's inherently bad for you. Oh, green grass is in this bag of seaweed. Okay, I've seen green grass. This must be healthy and natural. Oh my god, what the fuck is this monosodium glutamate? Jesus Christ, it's the root of all my problems. All of a sudden you get fired from your job and you go outside screaming, God damn you MSG, as you shake your fist into the air. It's not inherently bad just because you don't understand it, so I hope I've helped you understand it a bit better. All of this being said, I would say avoid MSG. Not because MSG is bad, but just because the food it's found in is bad for you food. And even if you do swear off of MSG, but you're still going to eat like some shitty junk food, just know you're still ingesting MSG. It's just not labeled as MSG. I'm not trying to send you to bed with nightmares of the monosodium glutamate menace or anything, I'm just letting you know. Again, a massive thanks to Zeno for this animation. The dude is an unmatchable mountain of masculinity, so go check out Zeno's channel, subscribe to Zeno, all that good shit, because the man truly deserves it. He's mastered the art of animation. He had to turn down Pixar 100 times because I wouldn't stop begging for him to be on board, but you know what he said? He said, no, I'm too good for Pixar. And he is. He's actually got animating down to a science, so definitely go check him out. See ya. It's been a couple of years since I've done one of these, but welcome to Season 2 of Man with a Useless College Degree Teaches Shit He Learned While Obtaining His Useless Degree. Starring me, Professor Wetgood. Now please, class, take your seats and get ready, because I'm about to make your minds ejaculate. Today's subject, keto diets. What are ketogenic diets? How do they work? Can you do a ketogenic diet while playing Fortnite? Will Fortnite run for president? All of these questions will be answered in today's lesson. I'm sure the majority of you are at least familiar with the name keto diet without maybe understanding exactly what it is, but it's really been quite the fad. It's been all over the media. It's just been lighting that bitch up. People have been promoting the health benefits for a couple of years now, and it's really starting to catch on. So let's go ahead and start. Keto is short for ketogenic. I'm sure every third grader in the world could put that fucking puzzle together, but it's worth mentioning. Ketogenic is referring to the state your body enters when you go on this sort of diet. Your body goes into a state called ketosis. Ketosis gets its name because your body in this state produces something called ketones. Now, how do you get your body to the state of ketosis? You severely restrict your carb intake, you keep your protein intake moderate, you don't want to go too high, but you do want to go hard on your fats. Now let's say every morning you get up and you just can't function properly without your breakfast fettuccine alfredo to jumpstart your morning. For lunch you get a Subway sandwich, and for dinner you chow down on some fried rice. Well, A, you're a fucking monster for going to Subway for your sandwich. You might as well pick up a scoop of dirt on your way to work and eat that. There's more flavor there than in one of those sandwiches. And B, you'd have to cut that shit out. You'd have to completely change the way you eat, because that right there is far too many carbs. The sweet spot for a ketogenic diet is anywhere from 20 to 50 grams of carbs per day, depending on what research you're looking at. Some people can get up to 100 grams a day and still get into a state of ketosis, but that's very rare. It all depends on your body type, but typically 20 to 50 grams a day is that golden spot where you're getting some nice rim jobs and seeing great results. Now you know how to get into the state of ketosis, but why would you want to? So when your body's in this state of ketosis, it produces what's called ketones. And in the absence of carbs, your body can't use glucose as its main energy source anymore. Thus, it starts producing ketones to replace it as the main energy source. Is glucose bad? Is it the worst thing in the world? Did it shoot your parents and fuck your wife? No, it didn't. Fuck no, it's fine. But the problem is when you eat something like, let's say, a fucking coconut and Nutella birthday cake, I'd rather eat asshole than that, but let's say you took a bite of that, what this does is it gives you a lot of glucose that your body now needs to use, And if you don't use it all, like let's say you don't run fucking 5 miles to burn all that shit off, it gets stored because your body didn't need it, so it stores it as adipose, which is fat. So now you know that using glucose as your primary energy source is fine, but if you don't use all the glucose, there's a good chance you're going to start gaining some adipose tissue. So how are ketones different, and why do we prefer to use them instead of glucose? Well, first of all, ketones come from the breakdown of fat in the liver. So instead of using glucose, you're using fundamentally fat. You're using your fat as your energy source now. Now the next natural question becomes, why doesn't our liver naturally just break down fats? Why do we have to be in ketosis to really kick that shit into overdrive? It's because of the insulin levels. When you take something in, like the example I gave earlier, a coconut shit cake or whatever the fuck it was, your glucose levels go up, but so do your insulin levels, because insulin is responsible for transporting the glucose throughout the bloodstream. When your insulin levels are high, it makes it very hard for your liver to break down fat, if at all. So when you enter ketosis and you're not digesting coconut stinky shits, your insulin levels are dropping as well, which in turn makes it so your liver can break down the fats more easily. So once again, just to wrap that all up and put a pretty bow on it, in essence, you just start using fats, your fat, as your energy source. Now you know what ketones are, why they're a good thing, now you know how to enter ketosis, but now let's talk about some of the things a lot of people make mistakes on when doing a ketogenic diet. The biggest one, and definitely for me personally, this is where I fucked up big time doing keto, is your protein intake. It has to be moderate, it can't be super high. And the reason for that is when you have so much protein and you don't have any carbs coming in, your body starts breaking down protein as its energy source, and this process is called gluconeogenesis. This is the last fucking thing you want. You'll start looking all noodle-armed and noodle-dicked because your body is literally eating away your lean muscle mass. So you have to be very careful when taking in your protein. You have to be very mindful. You keep it at a middle ground level. I can't really give you an average number because that's going to vary from person to person drastically, depending on a lot of different characteristics. Another big common mistake is eating fruits. Fruits are pretty damn high in carbs. You have to pretty much avoid fruits when on a ketogenic diet, which not a lot of people expect or really know how to adapt to, because you grow up being taught that fruits are some of your best friends, but sometimes you gotta leave your friends behind so you can chase your dreams. And in this case, that's exactly what has to happen. And the last huge mistake people make on a keto diet is not getting enough of the right fats. If you're not taking in enough fat, you're not going to be burning fat. You're just not going to really be succeeding in a keto diet. So you have to make sure that you're eating a lot of fat. And for some people, that's pretty hard because you grow up being taught that fat is the schoolyard bully, the playground bully that's just going to shove your face into the mud pies and make you fat. Which, I'd like to say right now, is 100% bullshit. Fat does not make you fat. That myth was started about 50 or 60 fucking years ago when obesity really started to become a problem because of all the sugar in the food, and people started to take notice. So then companies that used a lot of sugar in their shit-ass products started to shift the blame onto fat instead of the sugar to keep sugar looking innocent, and for some reason that still persisted where people think fat is an inherently bad thing. So to put it in Harry Potter terms, the Harry Potter universe, fat would be the Professor Snape. Everyone thinks he's bad and evil, but he's not, and he's had a pretty sad past. And that's really keto in a nutshell, what it is and how it works. I know I didn't dive too deep into exactly how every process starts, finishes, what enzymes are breaking down what, because I don't think many of you give a shit about that. I think what most people want to understand is exactly what it is and how it works. Now, depending on what research you look at, some of it's just bullshit like, keto will not only make you taller, but it'll also make your dick 10 times bigger. Do a keto diet now and buy my book so you know how to do it right. Obvious scams, don't fall for that kind of shit. But there is a myriad of other health benefits besides just fat loss. Insulin levels are reduced, and then there's other studies that say that, you know, your mental focus is improved, blood pressure is improved, a whole bunch of different shit. I highly encourage anyone out there that's curious about a keto diet or thinking of starting one to do your own research and learn how to do it the right way. But yeah, that concludes this lesson, so class is dismissed. Big thanks to Zeno for the professional as fuck animation to really take today's lesson to the next level. I've been on the internet a long time, I've seen a lot of shit on here, but there's one video in particular I will never forget. It's a video that's permanently burned into my psyche. And it's not an old video either. I only saw this like 8 months ago, maybe. And I've brought it up, I think, twice now. It is a cock ring removal surgery. A man wrapped a steel cock ring around his nutsack and penis, and it got stuck, and it was cutting off the circulation, so his nuts were swelling to an absurd degree, like something out of a fucking cartoon, or like in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory when the girl gets blown up, like the blueberry girl. It gets absurd how big that ball sack went. And the way that they got the cock ring off was they used a circular saw and bolt cutters. For obvious reasons, I can't share even a single frame of this video with you, but I was talking about it on stream. I'll go ahead and play that clip just to kind of paint it a little better for you. And then I want to talk a little bit more about this video and why it's probably going to be a video that will always live on in a special place in my heart. I also agree with that, and I'm no medical expert. Yep. I did, however, see a video of a guy who trapped his ball sack and penis in a male chastity cage. The short of it is his balls swole to such a crazy degree that it swelled to such a crazy degree that they looked like my ass cheeks. So he had like giant fucking balls. And when I was watching this, it reminded me of it as it kept expanding. Because his balls, the chastity, or no, it wasn't a chastity cage, it was a cock ring. He wrapped it around his balls and his dick, and it was too tight, and it was made out of steel. So they just kept swelling and swelling and swelling until they were the size of basketballs. And I was watching the surgery to get it taken off. They had to use a circular saw on it, which was pretty hardcore. His dick was unrecognizable because all of the blood kept going to his balls, and it just kept going and going and going. And then when they finally got the steel cock ring off, his balls just started flopping around, and one of the nurses gave him a squeeze. I just thought it was really cool. I've never seen balls get to that level. Like, it was fucking nuts. Like, it was huge. I wish I could show that video. I wish Twitch wasn't so strict. I mean, it's educational. You know, be careful with your cock rings. Like, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. And they used a real circular saw, like the kind of shit you use for carpentry. They used a real circular saw on his penis where the cock ring was, like, most vulnerable. They put a popsicle stick in between the cock ring and his flesh and ran the circular saw up the popsicle stick. Yeah, here we go. Well, it's actually a whole article. Penile and scrotal strangulation due to metal rings.
2018.
Yeah. Let me try a little more specific. Big nuts.
Okay, Charlie, because that...
and it worked!
That was the second one already.
And
also, that's
worked.
Daily Mail.
That's fine. It's a video. Daily Mail's wrong about everything, but this is literally a video. Oh, okay. Ad blocker. Yeah, but if you type in, like, swollen nuts, big balls, cock removal...
Cock removal?
Cock ring removal, you'll find it. Here, do you want to watch it? I can't put it on stream for obvious reasons. Well, actually, you're wearing glasses. I don't want it to reflect off the glasses. Never mind. It's cool, though. I bring this up pretty much any chance I get.
Why have I not heard of it before, then?
Because by every chance I get, it's only happened once. This is the kind of incredible content you're missing when you don't go to my streams at twitch.tv/moistcritical. Stop being a loser, just come on over. There's not enough words to describe the strength of this cock ring. It wasn't made out of steel, it had to be adamantium or vibranium or something because they were struggling. They had that circular saw fucking on top of it for like over a minute and couldn't get it off, but they did get it close enough where they brought in the bolt cutters and that's what finally broke it in half. It was so intense. And like the whole time you're just sitting there as the spectator on the edge of your seat like, is his fucking scrotum gonna explode? Like, it's like out of Halo Combat Evolved with those like giant flood that fall over and blow up into little tiny flood. That's what I was expecting to happen with his scrotum. It was so intense. And the way they do it was so goofy. Like, there's no way in a standard hospital they have a circular saw and bolt cutters for medical reasons. Like, I just find that so hard to believe. What probably happened is they're like, oh my god, we have no tools for this job. Quick, go to the fucking janitor's closet, go to the custodian or something. Is there any construction workers nearby? We need to borrow some power tools. So they just hustled and got all of that together and just started going to town. Now, this video doesn't start at the beginning of the surgery. It comes in at the middle when they've already broken out the circular saw. I like to imagine they've already gone through like 100 other tools. Like they're using a hammer and chisel trying to get it off. And then they upgraded to like maybe a jigsaw. And then they got even further to like maybe a belt sander. Then maybe they just started shooting it with a gun, trying to pierce it that way. And then eventually settled on the circular saw. Like, it's so wild. It is a video that it leaves a lot to the imagination despite showing you full cock and balls, which is impressive. It's like an entire movie's worth of entertainment in only a 3-minute video. And I can't talk enough about it. Like, everything about it is almost perfect. The job is well done. Like, he is freed and he made a full recovery. Everything went back to normal human proportions. And then everyone was happy. Like, when they finally did bust off the cock ring, and he probably busted a nut as well, everyone was kind of celebrating. Like I said, one of the nurses went over and just gave it a big squeeze, like a celebratory squeeze. I'm sure there was a medical reason, like trying to get blood flowing back to it or something, but I like to imagine that they were just so happy they couldn't resist the urge to just squeeze on that bad boy. I mean, it's just such a good video that I just wanted to make an entire video talking about. And I can't even show you anything from it, which is an absolute shame. The video somehow fills you with more questions than answers, despite giving you basically the whole story in that room. The main question I had for this is, how did he get that cock ring on in the first place? Because typically a cock ring goes on the penis, you know, right on the wiener. But somehow he was able to stretch like a very tiny cock ring that was made out of like 15 pounds worth of steel. It was like a vault door cock ring. He was able to stretch that not only across his penis, which maybe was a small dick, I'm not sure, because it was so swollen that it may have appeared bigger than it was. But he was able to wrap it around not only his penis, but squeeze his entire sack through it. Which I just don't know how that's possible. Clearly this isn't like a cock ring that's like snaps on or something, because if it was able to snap on and off, they would have had no problem doing that. They would have absolutely found a way to snap it off and free it. He probably wouldn't have even needed to go to the hospital if he could just snap it off, unless of course like a catastrophic malfunction occurred, like a hacker went in there and sealed it shut. But I don't think that was the case. I'm pretty sure it was a single solid steel unit that he stretched his penis and balls through. Which is incredible. Like, how is that possible? That's like an octopus squeezing itself through like a tiny crevice in a ship. I don't know how that could happen. Because even a single testicle probably wouldn't fit in that ring. The ring is very, very small. When they finally freed it, I was shocked by how minuscule it was. I was expecting it to be something like, you know, fucking you'd find on like mining equipment, you know, like a conveyor belt or something, like one of the gadgets and gears in there, but it wasn't. It was like something you'd find in your iPhone that just plopped off. It was really small, and somehow he's able to fit all of his shit in there. Like, all of his junk was able to get right through there, all of his meat. And I don't know how. This is like almost a paranormal video in that respect, because modern technology and science tells me, and like my understanding of physics tells me, there's no reality where he was able to squeeze everything in there. There had to be something more at play. Like, I don't get it. Maybe he was born with the cock ring, and then everything just kind of grew around it until eventually it reached this, you know, meltdown point, and, you know, it couldn't get blood anymore, so then he finally had to go to the hospital to get it removed. I don't know. But I just find it hard to believe that he was able to squeeze all of it through such a small ring like that. But anyway, again, I'm getting lost in it again because the video is just so baffling. But yeah, just again wanted to talk about it because it is still, to this day, probably the most memorable, wildest video I've ever seen. That's about it. See ya. This is a video I've debated making for years now, but I always just assumed that it was too personal and serious to be worthwhile. Like, you're not my therapist, so why should you care? This is quite honestly a didn't ask plus ratio moment. But I figured since I already kind of popped the seal off of this kind of content 5 years ago when I opened up about my OCD, I figured why not let this genie fully out of the lamp and talk about a mental problem I've struggled with since I was a kid. It's called hypochondria, and it's basically health anxiety but to an extreme level. It's health anxiety going insano style, fucking turbo mode, and for me personally it's had a massive impact on my life. It started when I was around 13 or so, roughly the same time period when my OCD tendencies really started to manifest. And as you can probably imagine, puberty was pretty miserable for me. while you were jerking your meat, I was studying WebMD. I knew about prion diseases before I knew about algebra. I would just stay up all night scaring myself with medical information and shit. Instead of like ghost stories and campfire spooky tales, I just read like PubMed articles on really rare diseases and death. And of course, this led me to believe that every little ache and pain and upset tummy was related to some life-threatening illness. And I'd force my parents to send me to doctors and get all kinds of tests, x-rays and CT scans and shit done that were obviously unnecessary, highly unnecessary, but they indulged me. I got so many CT scans done when I was a kid, I'm surprised I didn't turn into the fucking Hulk with all the gamma radiation or something. And of course, not only were they unnecessary, but it was highly dangerous getting that many tests and shit done. So it was counterproductive to my overall health as well. But I just couldn't help it. I had convinced myself that because I ate 2-day expired peanut butter, I'd contracted toxoplasmosis and I was panicking. I couldn't sleep. I'd just be in a constant state of anxiety and it's all I would think about. And it's still like that to this day. Granted, it's a lot better now than when I was a kid. I no longer go to doctors for every single small ailment because obviously I can rationalize it to myself now, but it's still something I battle today. In fact, the reason why I decided now is the right time to bring this up is because it's been getting fucking bad. I've been getting dump trucked by my hypochondria over the last week. I talked about it on stream last night, but I saw Jurassic World in theaters on Thursday. The movie's stinky, it blows ass, it's not great, but what was really awful was going to the theater for me. You see, what happened is, the movie was so boring in between the parts where the dinosaurs were doing things that I dozed off twice. Which is really rare for me, by the way. I usually never fall asleep during movies because even when they're super bad, I still find them enjoyably entertaining to make fun of. But this one was just excruciatingly uninteresting. It was like ASMR, but also with the Sandman throwing sand in my face and putting me to sleep instantly. This shit was just unbearable, so I dozed off twice. Not for long, obviously. I didn't get the blanket and pillows out and just call it a night. I had only dozed off for maybe 2 or 3 minutes total. But when I had woken up, it was during a scene in the snow, a plane had crashed, and I was pretty sure I saw a bat fly across the theater and go into the curtain next to the screen. And this sent me into an absolute fucking panic because I'm terrified of bats. And this isn't some Bruce Wayne origin story, Batman shit. I'm afraid of bats because of rabies. I don't actually have a bat phobia. In fact, the videos I see of baby bats and shit are kind of cute, but I'm afraid of bats in the wild because of rabies. I think rabies is one of the scariest diseases on the planet. Once the symptoms start, you're already dead. And there's nothing they can do about it. They have a vaccine that's a series of shots over the course of however long in order to prevent the rabies onset, and it's 100% effective as far as I know, but they can't test if you actually contracted rabies. So they only do that if there's a good reason for an exposure, like if you got scratched by a potentially rabid animal, bitten, whatever. But since I'm a goofy goober suffering from hypochondria, I have been constantly replaying the scene in my head for the last 48 hours and am convinced that while I dozed off, the bat may have bitten me, and I just didn't wake up from the bite. Because bat bites are invisible. When you get bitten by a bat, most people don't feel it because their teeth are so tiny and they don't leave any noticeable marks to the naked eye. So there's a chance that, and I've read stories of people who have been bitten by bats without waking up, and bats are the #1 transmitter of rabies. Most people who die from rabies are from bat bites that they didn't even know that they had. It's super fucking horrifying. So since Jurassic World Dominion was so boring it lullabied me to sleep, and I'm pretty sure I saw a bat, I have convinced myself that the bat must have gone full-blown Agent 47 hitman and bitten me while I was asleep and has given me rabies, and I've been freaking out ever since, wondering if I should just go get the shots to be safe. But even then, I don't think there's any self-respecting doctor that would hear this story and think, yep, that's rational. I'll set you up right now with the shots. They'd probably just admit me to a psych ward. They'd lock me up in Arkham Asylum if I told them this shit. Like, I know how ridiculous it all sounds. I even had to be talked out of going back to the theater, getting tickets to the theater, and trying to hunt down the bat myself like I'm the goddamn Ghostbusters. Like, I was even thinking like full-blown Looney Tunes where I disguised myself as pest control to try and find it for the theater. I know how outrageous it all sounds. I also tried to alert the theater to the bat by calling them, but their phone, I guess, doesn't work because it never goes through. I understand how unhealthy it all is, but I can't help it. I can't stop myself from it. That's the absolute curse of being a hypochondriac. I can recognize how unlikely this whole situation is, this wild fucking fanfic. Less than 1% of bats even carry rabies in the first place. The bats in Florida are predominantly fruit bats, so they're not even like carnivorous. They're not even going for humans or anything like that. It's mainly insects and shit. I understand that. And it may not have even been a bat in the theater. The scene, I managed to find the scene online. The scene has a bunch of snow fucking rushing across the screen horizontally. And since I was waking up from like fucking 2 little cat naps, there's a chance where I was still a little woozy and not processing things correctly and got confused with a big chunk of snow being a bat that flew into the curtains. Also a possibility. I know all of the stats and how unreasonable all of this sounds, but I can't help but be afraid of it. It is awful being a hypochondriac. It is at times debilitating. I just don't think people realize how awful hypochondria can be, because that's a word that gets tossed around a lot, a label that people use pretty often, super loosely, kind of like OCD in a certain way, like, oh, I put all of my tax documents a certain way in my drawers here, I guess I'm just OCD like that. Hypochondria kind of has something similar, where it's shit like, yeah, I wash my hands every time I finish going to the bathroom because I'm a hypochondriac. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is like the most basic shit ever. Hypochondria is awful. I cannot stand it, and I've worked on it my whole goddamn life since I really started to develop it. I've been working on like mitigating it and making it not as, awful and controlling. And I really have made a lot of strides over the years because it used to be a lot worse. But it's something that just doesn't fully go away. It's just one of those things that sometimes will just flare up like it has for me this week. Now, I haven't rushed to any emergency rooms or anything to tell this tale. I do have people who know how awful my hypochondria is, like, calming me down about it and, like, bringing me back to reality. So I think I'm just gonna muscle through it and really pray that my theoretical series of events that I've concocted is wrong, entirely wrong, and pray that I haven't actually been bitten by a rabid bat. Now, like I mentioned, it used to be a lot worse. I do think I've gotten pretty good at managing my hypochondria tendencies, except for this week. Obviously, I've really fallen off the wagon, but prior to this, I really do think I was doing a great job of it. And the way I accomplished, like, getting over a lot of it, since I've had it for so many years, what I found most effective is distractions. I don't know if it's the healthiest way of doing it, since it doesn't actually tackle the core problem, but distractions have just been invaluable. Whether that's distracting yourself with projects or things that you're interested in, like passion projects, whether it's developing a game, for me it's making shit, streaming, whatever. Being around friends, doing things with friends, being active, working out, playing sports, whatever. Just distractions in general, I've always found to be extremely, extremely helpful with things like hypochondria or OCD for me. Because it pushes them to the side where it's not like the only thing that I'm thinking about, to the point where I almost forget about it, or completely forget about it. And I truly believe that with hypochondria, it exacerbates every possible issue, so every little thing that may be out of whack, you immediately think is the worst thing ever. So like a small pain in your foot is the worst pain you've ever felt in your life, and something must be dreadfully wrong with your foot. But then, with distractions, you stop thinking about it as much, and you realize, it feels better now. Maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Maybe it was nothing, because now it's gone. So I just really feel like distractions are invaluable in helping with things like hypochondria and OCD. So yeah, up until this week, that's basically been my main strategy, and it's worked super well. And I'm sure it'll work with this too. It's just I haven't had a whole lot to distract myself with over the last couple of days. So I just still thought it'd be worthwhile to make this video, like, in the height of a hypochondriac episode. Just for the sake of, opening up about it a little bit, since it's something I don't think a ton of people talk about, and I've already talked about serious shit before, so why not again? Maybe this will help somebody, I don't really know. Hopefully it does, but anyway, that's really about it. So yeah. Today started like most days for me. I consumed a healthy breakfast conducive to muscle gain and good for a growing boy's metabolism, and then I innocently hopped online only to be met with shock and disgust when I learned that my reputation is being besmirched and my masculinity being challenged. But my pride is not wounded. I hopped on Reddit and discovered that I'm being cooked like a Thanksgiving turkey right now. It all started with this post. It's a screenshot from a comment on a video I made over a year ago that says, "Charlie looks like when Deadpool gets torn in half and he grows back a baby's bottom half." And then in the comments, they all start dogpiling on me. I'm getting attacked from all sides. I'm surrounded. But you know what? It's like Hulk Hogan said. Hulkmania's gonna run wild anyway, brother. Okay, yes sir. I'd never tear a shirt this high quality. This is a moist white tee from moistglobal.com, so that's the reason it didn't tear. You couldn't tear this thing apart with a fucking chainsaw, it's so well made. So that's what happened there. But yeah, anyway, I wanted to come in here and tell you exactly what's going on here because I feel like the comment section was misled by this photo. This picture is just a bit misleading. The perspective on it's all cattywampus, and you know they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and all 1,000 words that this picture's saying are lies. So I just wanted to give you the truth and tell you what's going on here. And you know, I think I know you think you're so tough from behind your keyboard, talking that shit, but you wouldn't say it to me on the playground. Yeah, but anyway. Let's get into why they're wrong and my legs don't look like baby legs. So I think it's pretty clear here that the comment section doesn't understand light refraction. So as we all know, light refracts whenever it travels at an angle into a substance with a different refractive index. This is called optical density. And what's gone on here is it's around 6 p.m., maybe 6:30 p.m. The sun's starting to go down a little bit. So the light's bending in all kinds of weird ways as we know it to do around that time frame. And what's happening here is as it's entering in through that glass door, it's bending around my legs, and as I'm doing this pull-up, I'm very slightly leaning forward a bit, so it's changing the angle of azimuth. And when the picture was taken, the aperture was all over the place as well. We didn't set it up properly. It's kind of like when you look at a helicopter blade and the shutter speed matches the blade speed, and it looks like the helicopter's blades aren't even spinning. That's what's happening here with my legs. So it's just causing all kinds of optical density problems, which is why my legs look so cartoonish here in this frame. I also distinctly remember there being a weather balloon lingering overhead, which is of course known to cause all kinds of problems when it comes to light refraction. So it was causing the light to do all kinds of weird gymnastics, which threw everything out of whack here, leading to this, disaster of a photo. So let me show you what my legs actually look like because it's clearly not represented appropriately or accurately here in this photo. I'm giving you OnlyFans content for free right now, but look at these fucking thighs. I can crush 15 watermelons in between these tree trunks. And let's not forget about the calves. Take a peek at these sledgehammers. My god, looking like two fucking pristine filet mignons. Hopefully this debunks those rumors that I have puny little toddler legs. Yeah, I'm not tall at 5'6", but I'm built like a fucking dump truck. So hopefully that puts all of those comments to bed, because now I think I've set the record straight. But like I said, this was only one of many. I'm only going to show one more here that's also quite laughable and has a reasonable explanation. This is on the same subreddit, the Rare Insults subreddit. This was them criticizing my cooking, which is baffling. If you know anything about me, you'd know that I'm a culinary expert, so it's really weird that they'd go after something that I'm actually proficient in. This is from a video where I tried to make Gordon Ramsay's grilled cheese sandwich because it was a pretty bad grilled cheese and I was certain I could do it the same, if not better, which I absolutely succeeded at doing, by the way, spoiler alert. But one of the comments here said, "Charlie cooks like one of those bad dreams where you can't throw a punch because your arms are like jelly." I don't even know what he's referring to here because when it comes to cooking, I have the hands of a skilled surgeon. I've been known to serve up some of the most delectable cuisine on this planet. I cook with efficiency, speed, precision, and violence, and it makes my flavors really pop. So I'm not exactly sure where the disconnect here is. They didn't try my grilled cheese, so they couldn't possibly tell you if it was good or bad, but I can. I can tell you that it was scrumptious. Probably one of the best grilled cheese sandwiches that's ever graced this planet, if I had to wager a guess. I exceeded Gordon Ramsay's rudimentary recipe. I was able to make it something truly special and unique, and for some reason I was still insulted in the comment section for it. Yeah, anyway, I just wanted to tackle some of these insults today. There was quite a few more, but these two were the ones that really jumped out at me as being very misguided and perhaps just misinformed. So hopefully I've been able to put these accusations to rest about my cooking being bad or my legs being baby-like. So anyway, that's about it. See ya. According to the first result, when I googled average male and female body, this is what I was given. Not the model, I'm using a body visualizer, but the numbers. I plugged the numbers I was given into this body visualizer. So this is what your average American female looks like without clothes on. She wouldn't necessarily be blue, and she'd probably have nipples and hair. The man would probably have a penis and whatnot. But this is the body composition of your average American male and female. Now let me ask you, do you find these bodies beautiful? If you were trapped in a cave with these bodies, would you rub up against them for heat? Most of you would probably say no, they're average bodies. So what do you find to be beautiful? Is this your ideal male body? Another wienerless man, but it does represent a muscular man. He's in good shape. Is this the ideal male body? Is this beautiful? Is this what people want? What about the female body? Is this the ideal female body? Sorry, the picture's a little big, so I've got to scroll up and down to show it. But is this the ideal female body? I don't think so. I think there's more to the human body and beauty than what society has told us is beautiful. Let me show you something here. Is this alien-looking physique not appealing to you? Is this not beautiful? If you saw this thing on the streets, would you stop and say, oh my goodness, one of the Greys from Area 51 escaped? Or would you stop and say, sir, you look very cute today? I would say he looks cute. Now let's adjust a little bit. Let's really push the boundaries of beauty. Let's see if we can make this... Oh shit, it's female. I completely forgot. Nevertheless, male, female, does it really matter? Why does this person have to conform to society's gender roles? This is a beautiful woman. Look at those legs. You see how they're corkscrewing around each other? Look at those tits. Those are huge tits. Who doesn't like huge tits? But focus on the legs. The legs are important. Do you notice how the patella is the only thing left there? Beautiful. If a woman wants to look like this, she should have every right to look like this without fear of ridicule and being deemed not good looking. I think any woman should be able to look like this right here. No strings attached, no judgment. Look at those legs though, they are really wrapping around themselves. And now she looks like a rotisserie chicken. Who doesn't like rotisserie chicken? This is a gorgeous woman. But I bet the majority of you don't think she's as stunning as I do, because of what you were taught growing up. Well, let me tell you. She is flawless. She's healthy at least, if nothing else. Whereas those supermodels starve themselves to look good. This woman didn't do that. She put all of her weight strategically targeting her legs. Now she can probably run faster than most automobiles. This is really fucking cool. Watch this. When I deflate the titties, the mouth closes. When I inflate them, it opens it up again. It turns this completely normal looking woman into the Green Goblin. I've created a new member of the Ginyu Force. Oh my goodness. This is incredible. This looks like Siddhartha. Oh, shit. Shrugging his shoulders now, getting some trap work. I've now moved his asshole up to the middle of his back, too. I'm still using the female. I keep calling it he. This is a female. Alright, folks? Get it through your thick skulls. This is a female. Got a tongue sticking out from underneath her tits, too. Belly button got moved up about 12 inches. Absolute beauty. Let's fiddle with the average male. Kinda pudgy, right? Not your ideal body type. But what's it fucking matter, alright? This is a good-looking man. He exercises 0 hours a week. Not everyone has to try that hard to look good. Like this guy, this is a good-looking human being. Got a little shark fin sticking out from his gonads. Parasite about to bust out of his gut. Asshole has folded into itself. The ass cheeks have collapsed into some type of vortex. Scrotum's formed a propeller. This gentleman's got the body of a Greek god. Now I'm getting a little sidetracked here, showing you all these good-looking things. But the point I'm trying to make is there's more things that are beautiful than just what you see in magazines and on TV. For instance, what I'm showing you here. And if I had the option, I'd be putting hair on all of these models. I'd have this bitch right here covered in hair. I'd have his eyeballs with hair all over them. He'd be the hairiest thing you've ever seen. Well, let's make him belly dance. Why, you like that? Do you like this belly dancing? Do you like that? Perfect. Another great looking human being. His head is held up by that toothpick in between his shoulders. His body resembles Play-Doh that's been stepped on. He's got a piece of skin floating behind him, because it has nowhere else to go, I guess. Perhaps this man is a bit too skinny. Behold, the old Bowflex salesperson. You too could look like this if you exclusively do the bench press and eat cottage cheese. I believe I've pushed the boundaries of beauty a bit too far. This thing is wearing football pads. It looks like a freshly opened oyster. Look at that, like, puddle of mucus in front of its face. It's got like a seagull's beak underneath him too. All things considered though, this is still a good looking man. Now the point I'm trying to make is society should not mold your definition of beauty. It should not give you glasses that tell you what's beautiful and what's not. You should break those glasses, shove them in your asshole, and shit them back out just to break them again. Beauty is a lot more than you think it is. What's up everybody, it's Critical. I want to talk about something super important today. Now when people think of an event that changes the human species, many people think of nuclear bombs or other weapons we build to destroy each other, or maybe something religious like a meteor strike or God jerking off onto the planet causing a mass extinction bukkake. But let me tell you the most realistic thing that may change the course of the human species. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria. I'm sure many of you have heard of this before, but for those who haven't, it's bacteria that becomes resistant to all of our antibiotics. Antibiotics were first discovered by Alexander Fleming in the early 20th century when he identified penicillin, and that and vaccinations led to a lot of diseases becoming pretty much extinct. But within the last couple decades, people have gotten a lot stupider and a lot more comfortable and taken a lot more things for granted. So now you have these stupid people like the anti-vaccination troglodytes who claim that vaccinations are going to cause their kids autism and have small tits and nipples, and they just don't want that, so they don't vaccinate their kids. Then this allowed for a lot of diseases that hadn't been seen for 50 plus years to come back even stronger. And then you have shitty doctors that'll prescribe antibiotics for pretty much fucking anything. If you glue a popsicle stick to your nose and then your nose gets stuffy because of it, you can ask for antibiotics and it'll give you them. Then you have people that don't finish their antibiotics when they're given them, which leads to the infection becoming more resilient to that type of antibiotic. And now a lot of farmers have been using antibiotics on their animals because they don't just want normal animals. They want chickens that can bench press 400 pounds, so they give them fucking antibiotics. That way they get bigger and beefier, so they get more meat per chicken and cow. It's incredible. And all of this coupled together leads to the bacteria becoming more accustomed to the antibiotic, which leads to them evolving to be more resistant to it so they can continue to survive. It's basic evolutionary shit. Now, I know a lot of people sitting out there like, you know what, I don't give a shit, it doesn't affect me right now, this is something that might happen in the future, why should I care now? Well, you homunculus, it's actually going to affect all of us right now, because it's happening at this very moment. A woman in Nevada just died today from a superbug that was resistant to every type of antibiotic. So these antibiotic-resistant bacteria are in the world now. So, why is this so bad? Before antibiotics, people would die from the most basic shit. If you got a cut on your finger, that could basically kill you if it gets infected, because there's not much you can do about it. And it's not just injuries that might get infected and kill you. Surgery would be completely off the table. There would no longer be any surgery allowed anymore, because when you get surgery, you're given antibiotics to prevent infections from getting cut open and doing all this and that. And if these bacteria are resistant to the antibiotics, you will die from getting surgery. There will be no more life-saving surgeries because the risk is just too high. And it's not even just huge, big surgeries that would be out of the question. The smallest shit, like getting your wisdom teeth taken out, boob jobs, those would all be off of the table. Porn star titties would be small again. Most people out there probably are hearing what I'm saying and going, you know what, it doesn't really matter. We're so smart, I'm sure we'll find more antibiotics. Maybe, but there's a really small chance of that. There's a really good chance that there's just no more antibiotics to be found, that this is the limit. I don't think the majority of the 7 billion people overpopulating this planet understood just how important antibiotics were. I'm using it past tense because it seems like they're not going to be effective anymore. We're already seeing a lot of bacteria that's resistant to certain antibiotics, just not all of them yet until today, from the Nevada woman who died from one who was completely resistant to all of the antibiotics. So what's the point in me telling you all this scary shit? My channel's dedicated to playing shitty video games and making weird videos. Well, the point is, maybe it'll help open some of your eyes. When you get antibiotics in the future, you'll finish the fucking dosage so you don't contribute to the problem. If you have friends or family that don't finish their antibiotics, tell them that shit's not gonna fly. Hey, Grandma Ruby, you sit those saggy ass cheeks down. I'm gonna watch you take these antibiotics each day until they're gone. Stop buying meat from places like Tyson that use antibiotics. I'm really not doing it justice illustrating just how big of a deal this is, but hopefully what I've said so far will help some people out there and contribute to the efforts to not all die from antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Also, if any of you out there listening to this are part of the anti-vaccination crowd, I strongly urge you to never reproduce and to please keep yourself locked inside of your house in total isolation. I've been reading a lot of scientific reports recently that claim too much air can cause herpes, so truly it's for your own good if you just stay locked inside of your house. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this PSA. Remember, it's not too late to stop being stupid, so yeah, that's it. See ya. You were just walking around being all human and shit with your tendons and ligaments and muscles when all of a sudden you got hit with a strong gust of wind which fractured your arm. This is commonly referred to as breaking your bone, but in the medical industry it's called an ouchie bang bang. After one experiences an OBB, the potassium cells in the body flock to the scene of the break and fill the hole with a red substance known as hemahobgoblin. Let's take a closer look inside of this substance. Now that we've cannonballed inside, you can clearly see that there's a fucking ton of dots in here. That about covers it for its composition. But I'd have my teaching license revoked if I didn't mention the osteoblasts and the osteoclasts. We'll start with the osteoblasts, who have the leading role in repairing broken bone, the Robert Downey Jr. to your body's Marvel Cinematic Universe. On the surface of every bone in the human body, you'll find the osteoblasts. I'm just kidding, you fucking nerd, it's the osteoclast. Did I have you going? Are you that fucking stupid? You just got osteo outclassed. These boring losers here are the osteoclast. They look like a tomato-covered ditto from Pokemon. They break apart the bone, they gobble it up, they eat it, they have an insatiable appetite, they're fucking gluttony incarnate. Then there's the osteoblasts, which are the cool one. That's these blue Roombas that just go across the surface of your bone, leaving behind a trail of cum behind them, which helps repair. This process is known as segagenesis, the suffix genesis meaning creation of, prefix sega meaning bad games. Now here's a picture of a melted marshmallow. Does that answer all your questions? Now everything we've just learned about and discussed all comes together, works in tandem, and starts to repair your bone and make it stronger than it's ever been in its entire fucking life. Now as we zoom out here, you'll notice that you don't even end up being the same person anymore. After this process is complete, you become Homer Simpson. What's up everybody, it's Critical, also known as Professor Steelmeat, and today's lesson topic is prions. Now if you're like me, a hypochondriac, you hit your hand on the edge of a table and you instantly think you've contracted fucking gonorrhea or something, then you've probably done some research on prions since they're being talked about a lot more recently. So since they're becoming such a popular subject, I'd like to teach you all what they are, how they work, etc. So go ahead and turn your textbooks to page Go Fuck Yourself and let's begin. Now what is a prion? Fundamentally a prion is a misfolded protein, but it's infectious and there's no nucleotides, which means there's no DNA and there's no RNA. And it infects the properly folded prion proteins, and once there's enough of this misfolded protein, it causes cell death in the brain, which leaves holes in the brain, which is what I'm illustrating with that drawing right there that just looks like a really badly drawn chocolate chip cookie, and then eventually the person dies. It's the cause of what's known as TSEs, or transmissible spongiform encephalopathies, and it's just some very shitty shit. Now here's a brief history of its discovery. In 1950 there was an outbreak of what's known as kuru in Papua New Guinea. Those infected with kuru lost the ability to walk, chew, and swallow, so obviously since they weren't able to eat, they died. About 10 years later, this kuru outbreak, as well as scabies, was studied. Scabies is another TSE, but it only affects goats and sheep. This head of cauliflower represents a sheep. It was studied by two London researchers, and they hypothesized that these TSEs were the result of a protein-only pathogen. Then, in 1982, a neurologist named Stanley Naughty Nipples Prusner came forward and announced that he had proven the hypothesis correct and named them prions, which is short for proteinaceous infectious particles. Now, that's a brief history of how prions were discovered. Now let's really get into what they are. Now there's two things here. There's PRPC, which is normal, and PRPSC, which is the misfolded version. PRP is just short for prion protein. Now everyone's body has PRPC in it, although no one understands exactly what PRPC does for the body. And I clearly don't know how to draw the fucking thing. It looks like a wacky, waving, inflatable, tube-flailing arm man, or whatever they're called. But that's the best I can do, and that's basically what PRPC looks like, and there's usually no problems with it, and it's completely normal, although no one knows its exact function. Maybe it makes you shoot cum further, maybe it makes your teeth whiter, maybe it's fucking Maybelline. No one has any idea, really. Your guess is as good as everyone else's. And then there's the abnormal version, which is the prion disease-causing one, PRPSC, which is the misfolded protein. And it's also poorly drawn. I'm not very good at drawing shit, but that's kind of what that looks like. This shit causes a lot of scary shit, like fatal familial insomnia. This is another really bad drawing, I know. It looks like he's laying his head on a bar of soap. I'm sorry, I'm a horrible artist, but I'm doing the best I can. Now, fatal familial insomnia affects the person's ability to sleep, eventually making them completely unable to sleep, which leads to extreme weight loss. This giant shoe is supposed to be a scale, and then eventually death. Now, it's not just them wide awake and not able to sleep. They beg to sleep. They are just perpetually exhausted and craving sleep, but their body just will not let them. It's a horrible disease, and there's a lot of other horrible diseases that this causes, such as Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which I'm drawing here, and also the one most of you have probably heard of before, mad cow disease. It also causes something in deer called chronic wasting disease. It just causes a whole bunch of shit. That's a very sad cow. Mad cow disease was a very sad time for cows, and everyone else. Actually, you know what, real quick fun fact, there's only two things in the entire universe. There's cows and everything that isn't a cow, so that really affected a lot of shit when that was going around. So let's talk about how this PRPSC spreads to the normal prion proteins. This is very haphazardly drawn, I just wanted to quickly show how it does it. So the misfolded protein comes in contact with the normally folded protein, and it's able to actually infect it and turn it into another PRPSC and completely get rid of the normal folded one. And it does this numerous times until they all form a long chain called an amyloid fiber. Now, this amyloid fiber is toxic to the surrounding cells in the brain, so what happens is it starts to kill off all the cells surrounding it. Yes, I know this looks like a tit with tentacles coming off of it. It kills all of these cells, and then these cells get cleaned up, but the amyloid fiber stays. And once these cells are cleaned up, it leads to holes in the brain, and those holes obviously aren't good, and that leads to diseases. But the amyloid fiber continues to multiply until there's pretty much nothing left of the brain. Now, how do you contract one of these TSEs? They've identified 3 ways. You consume contaminated meat where the animal had a prion disease, thus you would get the prion disease. They also believe that there's just a genetic mutation that can occur that can cause the prion protein to misfold. And they also believe that there's just a random chance that the prion protein will misfold, thus giving the person a prion disease. Now, I'd like to point out that contaminated meat isn't an issue of ill-prepared meat. You could cook that motherfucker to a block of charcoal and it would still not get rid of the prion disease if the animal the meat came from had it. So, let's talk about that. These prions are extremely difficult to get rid of. Dynamite wouldn't blow that shit up. Here's a prion taking a bath in a volcano. It would survive that and spit in the volcano's face. Alcohol and bleach doesn't kill prions. They are extremely difficult for scientists to get rid of. Autoclaving, boiling, alcohol, radiation, none of the standard methods work on prions. But in all honesty, the volcano thing and the dynamite was a bit of an exaggeration. You can actually burn prions and get rid of them. It breaks the peptide bonds and the prions are destroyed. But that's not exactly practical. You can't light someone on fire or light an animal on fire and say they're cured of the prion disease. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, they are extremely difficult to get rid of in an organism. Now, one last thing I wanted to touch on the subject of prions is a lot of scientists and researchers don't believe prions either exist or exist in the way that they are said to. Since prions don't have any nucleotides, DNA, RNA, they believe they can't possibly exist by themselves and be causing these as solely proteins. There must be something else at play, so they discredit a lot of the prion research and say it's hogwash. They say it's poop shit. They say a lot of shit about it. So I just wanted to point that out, that there is a debate on whether or not prions A exist or B exist like they're said to. And yeah, that's about all for prions. Some really horrible shit. And that's all for today's lesson. Remember to wish Professor Steelmeat a good day, and class is dismissed. See ya. Hello, you're watching Hot Feed, your #1 source for celebrity gossip. relationship advice, and the lowdown on all the hot stuff on today's episode of Hot Feed. 4 surprising things you don't know about yourself. Number 4. I bet my nipples you didn't know your attractiveness could be accurately and scientifically rated on a scale. Here at Hot Feed headquarters, we've constructed 2 mathematical formulas to accurately represent your attractiveness. For females, we use the Cox score, or CS rating, which is a 1 to 100 numerical indication of your attractiveness. It works as follows. Your picture is shown to 100 men, and we count how many of them get a boner. For example, if we show 100 men a picture of Anna Kendrick and 83 get hard, she has an 83 of 100 CS. Here's a graph to help better understand the system. As you can see, our complex algorithm for assigning a number to your hotness is bulletproof. The green line represents the number of stiff wieners upon seeing the picture of the girl being graded. As the hotness goes up, so does the number of penises. For males, we use the moisture meter, or rating. The moisture calculator is a little more complex, so I'm going to need to explain it a little bit more. We show 100 women a picture of one man and then weigh their wet panties. We then weigh them again after they've dried. Then we subtract the initial wet weight from the dry weight and multiply that value by 100, which gives us the moisture percent. Now, we have to get the average of all of this, and then we take that average and then put that on the graph. Now, anything 90% and above means the panties were fucking soaked like they were caught in a tsunami, but reaching 100, that shit's impossible using our formula. Now, I know I'm showing 100% on this graph, but that's just for shits and shitting. But it just can't happen because you need the panties to weigh nothing, so you divide the initial by the initial. But panties are always going to weigh something. Even the driest, dustiest old pair of panties, your grandmother's old undergarments from 1814 that haven't seen action since the Prohibition, are still going to weigh something. So you cannot reach 100 using this, but it's still probably the best way to assign a number to a man's attractiveness. It's not as bulletproof as the Cox score, though. Number 3, the third thing you don't know about yourself. It is not only possible, but extremely likely that you and everyone else in this world is living in a computer simulation run by a much more advanced species on the outer rim of space. This theory has been getting more and more attention recently because it keeps getting harder and harder to prove it false. In fact, most of the new things we're learning about the universe actually point to it being the truth. Now, I don't want to dive too deep into this, but if you want to learn more, you can just type in simulated universe theory and there's thousands and thousands of documents and sources that cover it. Here at Hot Feed, we just like to open your eyes to some real heavy shit. Or maybe it's not real, and maybe it's not heavy, maybe it's not even shit. If this is actually a simulation, none of that actually exists. Maybe shit is a really different thing in the actual reality. But for now, this is still real, it's heavy, and it's shit. Number 2, I bet you didn't know that men can also lactate. It's been reported a number of times throughout the years, but recent studies confirm that the phenomenon is not only possible, but in fact quite easy. There's 2 main things that cause male lactation. Number 1 is certain medications. Toronto-based Dr. Jack Newman confirmed that an antipsychotic drug interfered with the pituitary gland and caused it to overproduce prolactin, which is the hormone necessary for lactation, and that's not the only drug of its kind that causes that side effect. And the second thing that causes male lactation is overstimulating the nipple. That's right, so if you assault your nipples like I do, there's a very real chance that you could start to lactate. Now, I know you female viewers out there are wondering, well, this isn't about me, so this isn't a surprising fact I didn't know about myself. I can already lactate. And that's where you're wrong, because now you know that you're not alone in the lactation business, and if that's not surprising, then I simply don't know what is. Number 1. I guarantee you had no idea that being able to do a headstand is so unique to our species. In fact, there is no other living thing on this planet that can do a headstand other than the Asian elephant. And now you know how similar we are to the elephants. So if you were ever thinking about challenging an elephant to a breakdancing competition, I'd think twice. It might just break out the headstand and make you look silly. Well, this has been the very first episode of Hot Feed, and I hope you all learned some very new, surprising things about yourself. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to feed yourself and stay hot. What's up, everybody? It's Critical. I'm going to be teaching you all about carbohydrates, what they are, and how they're used. Now, this is something I've never done before. I've never taught a lesson or anything of that nature, but recently I've been reflecting on all of my college courses and all of the useless knowledge that I have. And it's not really useless, just useless to me. I've completely lost interest in my field, which was exercise physiology and basically anything biology related. So I have a lot of knowledge in that area, but I know I'm never going to use it, so I kind of thought, well, maybe I could pass it on to all of you and it might be useful to you in some way. So I decided to make this lesson about carbohydrates because there's a lot of confusion surrounding them and a lot of conflicting information regarding carbohydrates, so I figured I'd take that shit and turn it into a nicer shit. So here we go. That's my hand right there. It's held my wiener more than a few times. Now, the incredible thing about hands is I can write words with them, like carbs. So carbs are your wheat, your bread, your pasta, your rice, shit like that. That's a bowl of rice in case you couldn't tell. I know it looks like a fucking Jackson Pollock, but I'm not the best artist, but I'm trying my best. Then you have your fat, which is things like peanut butter. Your protein, which is your meats, like chicken. This is obviously a picture of a chicken. I know it looks more like a dinosaur without arms suffering from extreme scoliosis, but trust me, it's a chicken to represent protein. And these three make up your macronutrients. And these are crucial to your survival, pussy fart. Now let's break this down a bit further. Carbs will give you 4 calories per gram, fat will give you 9 calories per gram, and protein will give you 4 calories per gram. They're not all digested the same, they're not all absorbed the same or used the same way, but we'll get into that another time. I'm going to focus on carbs for this, I just wanted to give a brief overview. Now, what is a calorie? Well, a calorie is the amount of energy required to raise the temperature of water by 1 degree Celsius. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail on all this, I just wanted to briefly touch on it. So carbs are the primary source of fuel for the human body. They're the most easily used nutrient for energy. They should make up anywhere from 45 to 65% of your daily amount of calories. As clearly indicated by this drawing, it gives you some fucking energy. I know it looks more like this man's eating bread and is about to be hit by a surprise tornado, but trust me, he's eating bread and he has energy. That's what I'm trying to represent here. Now, carbs are the first thing your body uses for energy, but if you're lacking in carbs, it'll turn to fat. Fat will be the second thing it burns for energy, much in the same way it does for carbs. It goes through a very similar process. Now, if you don't have a lot of carbs and you don't have a lot of fat, your body will resort to using protein for energy, which it does not want to do. It is very bad at using protein for energy, and it's very dangerous to do that as well, so the body does not want to do that. Something I wanted to mention, the body only burns carbs for about 30 minutes on average before it goes, oh shit, need to save the rest of this, and starts burning fat for energy, which is why those fat burning workout plans typically have you doing low intensity exercise for a long period of time, like lifting a toothpick for 5,000 reps or throwing a beanbag at a wall for 68 hours. And it's also why the ketogenic diet is so successful, because they have you eating 0 carbs and just have you chow down on buckets full of almonds and cleanse your palate with gasoline. So you have this high amount of fat with no carbs to burn, so the only thing your body can burn is fat, which is why people get real fucking shredded when they go on the ketogenic diet. Just wanted to explain the logic behind those two things. In the words of Julius Caesar, not all carbohydrates are the same, but they're typically going to be one of 3 things. A monosaccharide like this glucose right here, a disaccharide like this sucrose here, or a polysaccharide like this starch I'm drawing. The body jerks these carbs off in different ways. It takes a lot less effort to digest and absorb a monosaccharide than it does a polysaccharide like bread, which is why doctors recommend that most of your carbs be complex carbohydrates, like my asshole. Let's talk about the breakdown of these bad boys. So this right here is you. It's gonna look like a methed out Pac-Man, but for all intents and purposes, it's you. And this is you eating the bread. Apparently you eat the bread by smacking yourself in the face with it. I'm sorry, I'm not a good artist. So when you're chewing the food, it's a mechanical breakdown. But an enzyme is also released called amylase, which helps break it down further. Once it goes through your mouth, it goes into your stomach, continues to break down in there, goes to your small intestine after that, where most of the breakdown is going to happen because more amylase is released. It eventually gets broken down into monosaccharides, glucose, fructose, or galactose. Once it's in this monosaccharide form, it undergoes something called glycolysis. After glycolysis comes the Krebs cycle, and the product of this is ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. If you're taking notes on all this, remember to write this down. Fuck glycolysis and fuck the Krebs cycle. ATP is alright though, he's a pretty cool guy. Glycolysis and the Krebs cycle are just extremely complicated and it's really not worth understanding how they work. But ATP, that is the main source of energy for your body. That's what your body uses for energy. The cells love it, you love it, everyone's happy with ATP, as this drawing is clearly showing. So, adenosine triphosphate is used everywhere. It is what the cells use for energy, basically. So you need ATP, and you just need it. Now I bet you're wondering why I'm awake at 4 AM talking about adenosine triphosphate and carbohydrates. Well, it's because I love this shit. No, I'm kidding, I hate this shit. But you're probably asking yourself why you typically gain weight when you eat a lot of carbs. Well, that's because the energy you don't burn gets stored as glycogen in your liver. But once you run out of storage space there, that fucking Tom and Glary, that glycogen will get stored as fat in your cells. when you run out of space in your liver. That's the point I'm trying to make, except I really fumbled the word, sorry about that. So yeah, that's basically carbohydrates in a nutshell. It's been a long time since I've gone over any of this information, so it might all be wrong, not really sure. I don't think it is though, I think it's accurate, but it could be. Who knows, it might be entirely wrong. But if I was an actual college professor, I wouldn't let my students leave until they said, "I hope you have a great day, Professor Steelmeat." Steelmeat's obviously not my real last name, but that's what I'd want the students to address me as well as faculty, and pretty much anyone else. I think it'd be really fun to be addressed as Professor Steelmeat. But yeah, that's the end of today's lesson, so see ya.